Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel, and it's time for another book review. Alright, well, second to last book of the Ian Fleming James Bond books. And yeah, one more to go. I can't believe that in all my life, I'm finally almost completed with reading all of Ian Fleming's books. Kind of strange, right? For such a big Bond fan, and have never read all the books before until I'm in my 50s. Anyway, so this book review is on The Man with the Golden Gun. And I must say, this was not what I was expecting. Not really. So the movie's very specific, right? About the man with the golden gun is coming after Bond. Well, we think. That's right. Because actually, that was all set up by his girlfriend. So, but, you know, so we're thinking the man with the golden gun is after James Bond. So Bond actually goes after him proactively and defensively, actually. And the story takes off from there. Bond finds out more about what's going on with Scaramanga. And so, and then the big crescendo at the end, the big duel between Bond and Scaramanga on his island. And Scaramanga has like this big affinity for Bond, you know, like actually from the very beginning, he's got that statue of Bond in his funhouse. So he has this reverence for Bond. Well, it's not like that in the book. The storyline of the book is completely different than the movie. You still have your two titans. You've got Bond, you've got Scaramanga. They have their, it's not a duel, but it's kind of the typical storyline of kind of all the Bond books. So, except it starts out, I like the way that it starts out because it picks up where You Only Live Twice left off. So, except there's some space, some time has come between the stories. Bond shows back up, and he's reporting for duty. Well, he's been missing. He's been missing for a long time. He was presumed dead. And we know that from the previous book, You Only Live Twice, that's because the Japanese diving girl that was in love with Bond and Bond was staying with, and they had this relationship. Well, he had amnesia, and she didn't want him to learn who he was. She wanted to keep him safe and keep him to herself, give him a nice, comfortable, or I don't know, peaceful. Give him a nice, peaceful life, helping her on the island. But then he starts to get his memories back, and she knows she's got to let him go. And for some reason, he's going to go to Russia because he remembers something about Russia. So that's where the storyline kind of picks up with the man with the golden gun. And he's been brainwashed. He indeed did get to Russia, and they're like, oh, so you're James Bond. You're the secret agent. They don't really let him know a lot of these things, but until they kind of get him brainwashed and send him back to kill M. It doesn't work. And M doesn't give up on Bond. He winds up getting this assignment to kill Scaramanga, who they know is a killer. He is called the Man with the Golden Gun. Now, in the movie, it was a big deal that Scaramanga his identity was never disclosed. So people didn't know what he looked like. They didn't know who he really was. He was very mysterious. So it was going to make it harder for anybody to ever find him, hunt him down, things like that. Well, his character is quite a bit different in the book. He's very flamboyant with who he is. I mean, he barely met Bond at one point, and he's just kind of like, yeah, they call me the man with the golden gun, and guess what I do? You know, I kill people. And I mean, it's just like, I mean, he wasn't hiding his identity at all, and he didn't even know who Bond was at that time. So that was a different bit of character. I like the character. I gotta say, I like the character in the movie way better. His character has better development and is a deeper character in the movie by far. Sometimes the books, the characters are different than the movie. Like in Moonraker, I thought in Moonraker that Drax, the bad guy in that, was more compelling and a much more dangerous person in the book than he was in the movie. But here, in the book, he's almost like an American gangster. Not very mysterious, just a hitman. So, yeah, he's not as good a character in the book. Anyway, now the character of Goodnight. Now that's James Bond's secretary. She thought Bond was dead. She is and that's the thing, she's in Jamaica. So in the movie, everything's happening, I believe, in Thailand. So, but no, we're actually back in Jamaica. That's where Goodnight is. And she becomes a helper for Bond in this. And they have their little relationship. Another person who shows up in the book, who's not in the movie, I wish he would have been in the movie. Again, it would have supported the deep friendship and relationship they had, was Leiter, Felix Leiter. He shows up in The Man with the Golden Gun in the book in Jamaica, and he winds up helping Bond again. And so the rapport that Bond and Felix have in the books is so much better than what we see in the movies. They work together a lot in the books. Now, the plot line of the book. It is typical. And I've mentioned this in other reviews before. It's a very typical plot line. So Bond, he needs to investigate somebody. He goes, he runs into them, kind of weasels his way into a little bit of a relationship with them, winds up working for them again. So here he is working for Scaramanga as kind of a security assistant thing. Scaramanga, of course, finds out who he is, plans to get him killed, and then they wind up having their fight in the end. And Bond winds up killing the bad guy in a whole lot less fantastic fashion than what he does in the movies. That's kind of typical, I believe, of the books. Bond doesn't usually kill them in the bad guys in as fantastic of a manner as we see in the movies. But he always works for them. I believe I've mentioned this. So he's always on the inside with them, trying to pretend that he's somebody else. They completely bring him in. I mean, he's always working for them, and they bring him in full force, 100%. Tell him everything that they're doing in their organization, and so that's been a very typical plot line in the books, and this book was no different. It followed that same plot line. I'm kind of thinking. I wonder, because I know I had heard that Ian Fleming had thoughts of not keeping Bond, maybe even killing him off at one point, and that because, to be honest, A lot of his books follow that same plot line. And I think maybe he was getting tired of it, to be honest. I could see where he might have started to get tired of the plot line that he was using and the character. So maybe that's why he was ready to be done with Bond books. So I'm trying to think if there's any. I mean, plenty of differences. We don't have a private island. They're in Jamaica, so no big private island of Scaramanga. No big gadgets or anything like that. So yeah, nothing real spectacular. It's an enjoyable read. I'm not saying it's a bad book. It's an enjoyable read. But funny thing is, Man with the Golden Gun really isn't known as like a really great Bond movie. I think it's probably down in the lower part of the totem pole in the Moore series. And then, of course, it's probably down lower in the rankings of most Bond rankings as far as the movies go. But the Man with the Golden Gun movie, way better than the book. I gotta say that. There's a whole lot more going on in the movie than there is in the book. A lot more entertaining with the movie. Storyline, character development, everything. So I recommend it because, for one thing, if you're going to read the Ian Fleming books, may as well read them all. That's what I'm doing. I'm one more to go. And then, so you may as well read it. It's an easy read. It actually read pretty quickly. So I hope you enjoyed this book review. And only one more to go as far as Ian Fleming books are concerned. Then I might start breaking into some of the other authors, and then we'll see how their Bond books are. So that'll be interesting. Okay, well, hey, I appreciate your time. I appreciate you checking out my channel, my videos, and thanks for the support I've gotten so far, and we'll see you in the next video. All right, bye.